Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the AMTA Community Update. Before we begin, we wanted to continue to hold space for all who are impacted by the ongoing violence in the Middle East, in Ukraine, and in many other places. So I'm sharing a short reflection, and then we'll hold a moment of silence. This is For Love in a Time of Conflict by John O'Donohue. When the gentleness between us hardens, and we fall out of our belonging with each other, may the depths we have reached hold us still. When no true word can be said or heard, and we mirror each other in the script of hurt, when even the silence has become raw and torn, may we hear again an echo of our first music. When the weave of affection starts to unravel and anger begins to sear the ground between us, before this weather of grief invites the black seed of bitterness to find root, may our souls come to kiss. Now is the time for us to be gracious, to allow a kindness beyond thought and hurt. Reach out with sure hands, to take the chalice of our love and carry it carefully through this echoless waste until this winter pilgrimage leads us toward the gateway to spring. Thank you. And Angie will hand it off to you and to Lori. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our October 2023 Community Update. We've got a breadth and depth of information to share with you tonight. So before we get started, we wanted to give you an overview of what's on the agenda for this evening. So Angie is going to share our agenda. And I'm going to go through it, and I would like to note as we go through it that in order to accommodate schedules, there may be some changes as we move through this evening, but we will be getting through all of these various components. So again, we're going to start with a few general updates, and then we're going to move into a symposium update, which will be followed by our financial update and then the assembly update. We're also fortunate to have an AMTAS update tonight as well. And we're joined by several of our working groups, including the Commission and the Competency Review Task Force. And they're going to be sharing some updates for us, which will be followed by a bylaws update and then closing. So again, we thank you for being here, and we look forward to sharing a range of information with you tonight. So I'm going to start off by just outlining just a few things, because I want to give more time for all of the people on this call this evening to share the important information that they have with you. So we're just going to highlight a few things that have happened so far in 2023. And I'd also like to note that we will be sending out additional information via email following this meeting. Right. So we've had a number of different things happen. We were able to represent the association, and many of the board members were able to represent the association at the World Congress in Vancouver, Canada. We had a new publication, the third edition, I believe, of the NICU book edited by Jane Stanley. We have had a number of different opportunities, some of which will get shared tonight. So I'm not going to share those because there's some important things to in relation to some of our financial updates and dues updates that are going to be shared by Leslie and Brian and others, but look forward to those. And we are also moving forward with a number of different activities with the association. So for example, we have a new video that has been released by the Professional Advocacy Committee. We're working on some additional webinar type opportunities that we hope to launch in November and December. And of course, we have the symposium. We are continuing to work with our government relations, and we've had a number of states get recognition in 2023, which is fabulous. We are working on representing AMTA in different coalitions and things at the federal level. And we're really excited about that because we were able to add that back in 2023 after a pause. So those are just a few examples of the things that have been happening in the association. And we're going to provide more information now as we move on to different segments of what's happening in the community. So once again, thank you all for being here. And I especially would like to thank all the people on the screen that you see tonight for coming and sharing their information with us. All right, so Angie, if you will let us know what's next.
Next is a symposium update.
Thank you, Angie, and I'm reporting for myself and for Andrea Dalton. We had a very successful 2023 AMTA Symposium so far, and I say so far because registration continues to be open and all recordings from the symposium are available, and all of the courses can be taken for credit between now and February 29th, when it will officially close. So it continues to be a successful event. The live portion of the event, which happened earlier this month, involved 612 people registered, and we had great attendance for all of the live courses. Our presenters were phenomenal. We had a wide range of presenters, and I just want to publicly acknowledge our gratitude towards them for sharing their expertise and their time with us and with our community. I also want to say thank you to Chuck Wild, who was our presenting sponsor, and we also had support from the Kylo and Murray funds. The event made over $50,000 in the initial, and it continued in the initial offering, and it continues to also make money for AMTA, which is a good thing. There continue to be multiple levels of registration, so you can pay what you can afford. And I'm happy to share that if you need a scholarship or aren't able to pay for the symposium, you may still apply and receive a scholarship to attend for free. We had great turnout as well as generous support for our scholarships this year. So there are still some available, and we'd love to see them be used by members who could use them. So I think that's it for my report. I just wanted to say another big thank you also to my partner in Symposium Antics, Andrea Dalton. And thank you to everybody who helped with this event.
Yeah, and before we move on to our next update, I would also like to thank Jen and Andrea. They did a tremendous amount of work. And on the symposium, recognizing that it was completely volunteer-led. And so the sheer volume and the sheer array of tasks that they had to manage is impressive. And we are so grateful for their time and their experience and their commitment to ensuring that we have rich continuing education opportunities for our members and for the broader community. So please, again, if you are interested, you've got until February 29th, please, they're well worth the watch. And so please consider joining and taking a look at some of the fabulous education opportunities. And I believe the financial update was next.
Hi, everyone. My name is Leslie Henry. I'm pleased to be with you this evening. I am the AMTA treasurer. I have some updates to share with you and some great activities that have happened since our last update. I will be sharing the screen, and this should help aid some of the things I'm going to talk about. Just need to hope. So you may or may not have heard, but there was a new dues structure that has been approved, introduced and approved by the Assembly of Delegates. And this dues structure is in place for 2024 and 2025. A rationale was presented to the AMTA Assembly of Delegates suggesting that community members have indicated that membership dues are not widely accessible to all individuals who want to join the association due to cost prohibition, with a fee reduction for student, graduate, student, and retired categories and a tiered system of professional dues. More individuals are expected to join the association. Professional associations similar to AMTA are reviewing and changing dues structures due to declining membership. So this is something that's happening in other membership associations as well. It is timely for AMTA to change the dues structures in response to community feedback and identified inequities to those who are unable to afford membership. The new membership structure involves, as I mentioned, a tiered system for the professional level dues, and there are reductions for the student, the graduate student, and retired categories. Side by side, in this table, it depicts the categories, all of the categories going down vertically. And in the second column, it indicates our current rates. Next to that, on the third column, it lists the proposed dues for 24 and 25. And there is a tiered system for the professional membership, and the level 1 is $150, level 2 is $200, and level 3 is $250. I'll explain that in just a moment. As I mentioned, the student categories also were reduced by $35 to a $60 membership. And then the retired membership went down from $125 to $100. In the fourth column, it indicates what the percentage going back to the regions, and in the student's case, also going to AMTAS. So there is a 0.65% on the dollar that goes to regions based on what tier people will be selecting as they join next year. And $7.50 goes to the region for the students for support of students, and also $7.50 goes to AMTAS directly. The $15 will remain unchanged for any retired joiners. Sorry, I'm trying to advance my slide and the little film strip is covering it. There will be materials that will be shared widely beyond the typical AMTA list of current members, because there is going to be an effort to reach out to as many music therapists as possible to help them understand this new system. Because it is rooted in equity, it has many wonderful features, which include the person who is joining does not need to indicate why they are signing up for a specific tier. And they are going to select the category that fits a level of criteria. And these are some suggested criteria: that if you have dependents, you're a student yourself, you receive public assistance, you have zero savings, are formerly incarcerated, have less access to money, have a chronic illness or a disability. You might select the first or the second tier as a result of that. There are several other points that can be reviewed. And again, these materials will be going out so that individuals can select the tier that fits to what speaks to them. The level 2 tier, if you have earning power from college degrees, able-bodiedness, have access to health care, you work part-time by choice, own other property, and there are several other suggested dot points that one might use to help guide their decision-making process to select level 2 or 3 of the new membership dues. So what does this mean to me as a music therapist and to the region that I live in? This does amend the current system of membership dues in favor of a model rooted in equity. and it considers intersections and identities, specific life circumstances, and where one is at in the stage of their career. Hopefully this provides our members flexibility, is trauma informed, as they will not have to indicate or justify why they are selecting a certain tier. It will remain confidential, and this information will be held at the AMTA office level, and very few people will see that information, so it will remain confidential. Dues disbursements will change slightly for the professional members, as it is based on a percentage, but there are flat fees for the student, grad student, and retired. And then I think I have one more slide after this. So some general financial updates for the community. It's great news, and it's my pleasure to announce that the negotiated fee for the Silver Spring lease has been fully paid off. Just as a refresher, we had a lease until 2026, and we were able to greatly reduce the amount of money that was owed on that. And as of the beginning of October, it's been fully paid off. So that's wonderful news. There is no additional news to report at this time on the Jacksonville Hyatt contract. And we're told that this is normal by our advising group. We continue to hold a line of credit that helped give us liquidity last year at this time, and plans will begin very shortly to begin paying that off. So that is going to be one of the next things we focus on. There was a recent, just meaning last week, a successful reduction from 2 storage units down to 1. So that is less money that we pay out to hold AMTA's items that used to be held in the office. So that helps us reduce some more expense. There is an ERTC refund expected in December. And if you listen to the July update, there was an application that was submitted on behalf of AMTA in June. And we've been told with the IRS, it can take up to 6 months to process this money. So we are being as conservative as possible. And we expect a refund for some COVID relief in December at sometime. There was excellent registration. I want to also just congratulate Andrea and Jen for their wonderful work, because they beat the budget expectation for what we had anticipated for revenue. So anything beyond that will continue to help build a stronger AMTA. Our audit is in the final stages, and I hope to have that out in terms of information to the community fairly soon. Everything is going as it should. We have no indication to be concerned. I've been assured by both our accountant and our advisors that things are going well. Currently, right now, the AMTA 990 is completely filled out and will be filed, as I know there are some regions still getting information to our accountant, and very soon the affiliate joint 990 will be filed. All will be on time by the November 15th filing date, so all is as it should be. There continue to be regular meetings with the financial team to review cash flow, and we are meeting all of our goals, so that's really great news. The other thing that I'm very quickly going to share, because I know that others are going to be coming after me, is there were some questions related to some of the things that are paid from our budget. I'm just trying to get to the right screen here. We, as a small business, because that is what we are, we have a variety of small business expenses, which do include things like accounting, professional audit services, because we have to meet nonprofit law, contractors that help us operate the business, fees that we have to pay out to CBMT, legal fees, payroll processing, things like that help us just continue to run as a small business. Ways that we help get the word of music therapy out there. We do pay memberships to different coalitions and groups that help the work of AMTA. And so we do work with the Consortium for Constituents with Disabilities, the Health Professions Network, the Mental Health and Addiction Network, and CADA, Professional Convention Management Association, Powers, Piles, Sutter, and Verville, all of these places that help give us bulletins, they help keep us informed in terms of what things are happening legislatively. So those different things do cost money, and there are expenses for our budget, but they're necessary and they help us to be able to get music therapy at the table and to be talked about. We also do pay a number of other small business expenses that help us to operate well. We all really would want as a goal in the future to have a new website. We still have to pay for the current one in terms of management, even though it's not what we all want. We do pay out, even for membership, we have to pay money to PayPal to be an e-commerce provider. So there's a variety of different expenses that are built into the budget that help us to balance it and also operate our small business. I'm very happy to take more questions when we go to the breakouts in the next portion of this meeting.
Thank you so much, Leslie. I just want to draw everyone's attention to one particular service that was on the last slide or screen that Leslie showed us, and that was Fiscal Note. And that is a program that supports our state task forces and advocacy. And so that was one of the larger expenses on that particular screen, but that's a very important and vital expense that allows us to continue our work at the state level in terms of advocacy and education. All right, so I believe our assembly update is next.
Thank you, Lori, and thank you, Leslie, for that update. I think this update it's kind of a good jumping off point for some of what we have to share. Updates related to Assembly's work since our last July community meeting update. Brian Jantz, Assembly Speaker, and joined this evening by Assistant Speaker Spencer Hardy. Spencer, feel free to jump in at any point. I'm just going to kind of go through notes I have on all the things that we've been doing in Assembly, so feel free to jump in. Also, just want to take a second to thank Spencer, as well as our board reps, Mia Krings and Kevin Bach, for really all the work that they've been doing this year. Can't thank them enough. So since the last board community update in July, Assembly has met twice, on August 7th for an Assembly community meeting, and then October 3rd for a work session that was focused primarily on work group updates. We still have our Assembly elect orientation coming up on November 6th, and then the final meeting for the current Assembly, the 2022-2023 Assembly, will be December 4th. As Treasurer Henry was describing in detail, the August 7th Assembly meeting did include a vote that unanimously approved a new membership due structure. We really appreciate all the work that went into preparing for this change to a tiered structure. I want to thank Treasurer Henry again, Council Coordinator Chelsea Mabes, all of the membership committee members, and really all the Assembly delegates and alternates and board members engaging in discussions throughout the spring and summer leading up to that vote. Spencer and I have been talking about it, how it seems like we're finding new ways to work together right now and accomplishing some new things through that. Any thoughts at all on that, Spencer, before I kind of get into some of the other stuff?
Yeah, sure. I was going to save this to the end, but you said thanks to us, so I want to thank you.
Let's talk about it now.
No. I just want to say, Brian, like, you've been an incredible leader, and so thanks to Brian for all of his work leading the commission for the last nearing the end of our term now, so the last 2 years. And I think a big part of that has been navigating how we function as an assembly, how we as an assembly interface with the board, how we, really can foster a lot of a culture change within the assembly and within the broader functionality of the assembly within the association. So huge kudos to Brian for leading out on that. And then, yeah, I'll let you kind of get into some of the details, but our work groups being a huge part of us wanting to function differently as an organization.
Yeah, no, thank you for all of that, Spencer. So we did send a detailed update out on that meeting that you can still access under latest news on the AMTA website. We could also possibly put a link to that here where the live stream is, but it's pretty easy to find. It's the September 22nd update on the AMTA website. Spencer, Mia, Kevin, and I sent out an update, including a lot of what Leslie also just went over with you all. So speaking of the work groups, on October 3rd, it was really our first time to hear from the work groups on what the work that they've been doing. We've been invited to join them for some of their work on their specific areas. And those focus areas include student membership and engagement, communication, the role of assembly, as well as rules of order and meeting agreements. Now on October 3rd, we heard from the student membership group, membership and engagement, from the communication group, and from the role of assembly group. And that led to really great discussion. I think all in attendance agreed, really good discussion and bringing different perspectives. And the work groups, we all took a lot of notes, and they're continuing their work. One of the things that came up is will the work groups continue after this term? And while we don't have a final decision on that, I'm sure it will come up on December 4th. It definitely seems like this work was not a one and done kind of work. This is really process oriented. And then we also discussed, so what action could this lead to? We were bringing up, it could lead to potentially a recommendation to the board. It could lead to proposed bylaws changes. It also just might be a vote with assembly deciding on some procedural changes so that we're, functioning in a different way moving forward, which we already are. And just as a reminder, the work groups, it's kind of in my experience, a unique situation where it was not a charge of the board. It was not even the board rep's idea. Everyone was very open to what might come out of our initial work session where we met just as assembly in April. We had breakout sessions, so small groups met, and there were all these ideas coming out, and it just happened. I don't remember who said it first, but it was we need to continue this, and what about work groups? And then, volunteers above and beyond their service as assembly delegates and alternates. Work groups include alternates as well. Volunteered to be part of these groups, and they're meeting in a way that's sustainable for them. We don't have any expectation that they meet a certain number of times. And as I said, they've invited us in some cases, but we don't need to be invited. They can absolutely meet without us. Any other thoughts on work groups, Spencer? Because then I'm going to get into orientation and things coming up.
No, I think you got it.
Yeah, I'm really excited about the December 4th meeting because the work groups were saying we really want to discuss this with the community and with the board. Let's not just discuss it between ourselves, but let's bring others into this, and that's the whole idea. So what we have coming up next is our orientation for Assembly Elect. Spencer, me, and Kevin and I have been in touch with regional presidents the past few weeks and assembly chairs, making sure we have all the contact info correct for invites for that meeting, sending out some basic orientation info, but also we're going to be sending out notes from the work group sessions, trying to create the smoothest transition we can. We're also going to be creating shared folders so that everyone has what they need going in. And of course, Spencer and I will be available as needed, but want to just do our best to make sure that that all the work everyone has put into this can continue, knowing that it's going to change and it's going to evolve. And that's, as it should. So there will be a vote during the November meeting for board reps as usual, including a new speaker, a new assistant speaker. So if anyone feels like, you know, they know a delegate in the assembly elect they think would be good, or an assembly elect delegate thinks they would be good as a board rep, please reach out to us. We'll also be including in our invite a form that you can fill out, and we'll be taking, you know, on the floor nominations as well. Let's see. So yeah, our hope is that the role of assembly can continue to evolve, as it certainly has the past few years, and really continue centering the needs of our community members. And we really invite all of you to the December 4th meeting. We really want, the assembly delegates have talked about this a lot. Like, it's not just about what we all think as 60-something assembly delegates. We want to find new ways to connect with the community, and not just in the meetings, but, you know, beyond the meetings. So if you have ideas about that, please reach out to us, or come to the meeting and offer your feedback on what the work groups have been doing. And, you know, ultimately, we are really here to represent you all. So I think that's all I have, unless you have something else, Spencer.
No, nothing else. Looking forward to seeing folks at those upcoming meetings that you mentioned.
All right, sounds good. Thank you. Lori, I'm not sure where we're sending it next, I'm realizing.
No worries, Brian. We're going to turn it over to Angie, who's actually going to be sharing the AMTAS update, because unfortunately our AMTAS president is sick this evening. So Angie.
Thank you, Lori. I feel honored to be able to deliver this report. AMTAS President Mika Castillo and the rest of her team, they have done so much this year, and they have done so much to invest in our music therapy community as a whole. So I'm going to try to share as much as I can, but this is what Mika has sent me. She said, the AMTAS e-board has met at least once a month since the beginning of their term, and they've worked on many projects and fostered connections amongst their board. So they've been able to serve the community in a really solid way. Each officer has contributed in the return of their AMTAS blog. And so you can go to their website and check out their blog. They have selected 7 scholarship winners and for putting out a total of $2,385. And they've updated the AMTAS guidebook, which is no small task, I'm sure. They've prepared and approved 18 revisions to their AMTAS bylaws. They hosted the AMTAS student business meeting, and they had a return of their annual SOB meeting with their AMTAS co-advisors, Virginia Driscoll and Adrienne Steiner-Brett, as facilitators. And they hosted. So that was that went really well. They have newly elected their 2024 board, and it includes current undergraduates, graduate students, and incoming interns. AMTAS wishes to express their gratitude for the collaboration and assistance from the AMTA leaders this year, including the Assembly of Delegates and the Board of Directors, in advocating for a decrease in the student membership effective January 2024. I know we've mentioned this earlier, but the students are very grateful for this. They said that it will make student involvement more accessible, and they hope to continue their discussion of future student membership benefits in the months to come. AMTAS also hosted monthly office hours for their student regional presidents, offering assistance, guidance, and support during their transitions and ongoing regional projects. They were happy to announce that for the first time in a while, each student leadership position and student advisory role is currently filled. They also have filled almost every AMTA committee with a student representative this year, after having low interest in 2022. If you know of any students seeking leadership opportunities within AMTAS, please have them contact President-elect Sydney Winders at president-elect.amtas@gmail.com. They wanted us to also share with all of you that in the month of April, they collaborated with the World Federation of Music Therapy to advocate and celebrate the first ever World Music Therapy Week. They created videos that invited students, music therapy students across all the world to submit a video saying Happy World Music Therapy Week in their native language. They had a total of 8 submissions from Florida Gulf Coast University, Ontario, Argentina, Brazil, Romania, and Thailand. The video can be found at the AMTAS social media sites, so take a peek. Earlier this month, they hosted a successful Passages conference titled Navigating Music Therapy. They had over 30 students attend live and 100 registrants who will have access to the recordings until February of 2024. They had the pleasure of having Fanny L. Caldwell and Morgan Maxwell from the SER region, who are co-hosts of the music therapy podcast, Music Till Proven Therapy. They were their keynote speakers for the Passages this year. They also had Maggie Ford, Rena Tabucci, and Jessie Koo as other student presenters. They want to express gratitude to everyone who participated in their nationwide Panda Express fundraiser earlier this month. 28% of sales were donated to AMTAS, and in total, they raised $172.32. Additionally, they want people to know that you can order AMTAS merchandise on their Etsy site. The last thing that they wanted to share was that they're hosting a virtual internship fair on Sunday, November 19th. The event is free and open to all music therapy students. And they are seeking internship directors on a combination of first come, first served basis and an even distribution of regional representation. So if you're interested, please reach out to Mika Castillo at president.amtas@gmail.com. Mika says it's been truly an honor to serve this organization, and she looks forward to continuing to support this community alongside all of you as a new professional. And that's the end of their report. I think all of us are glowing and excited about the energy that the students bring and the work that they have accomplished. So congrats and thank you to all of those students and the AMTAS leadership. I will pass it on over. Lori,
Yeah, great. Thank you, Angie, and thank you to all of the students. The work is fabulous. The engagement has been fabulous, and their maturity and professionalism has been just out of this world. So we're so excited to have them and to see what's going to happen next for all of them. I believe now it's time to turn it over to the commission. So Jennifer and Donna, Jen Hicks and Donna Poland, thank you, and take it away.
All right, thank you. The commission, we're just so pleased to be able to provide a brief update tonight for everyone. And so Jen, we can go right to the next slide. So this slide shows a picture of the commission at our first and only in-person retreat in 2019 in Dallas, Texas, hosted by SMU. I will read the names of the commission members: Ron Borson, Jane Cregan, who was ex officio through national office until she left the office in 2022, Char Carol Fisher, Jen Hicks, my co-chair, Phelan Zhao, Jennifer Jones, Betsy King, Marisol Norris, myself, Tracy Richardson, Corey Snyder, and Daniel Tague. Along with the members of the commission, Dina Register, Regulatory Affairs Advisor for CBMT, and Judy Simpson, Director of Government Relations for AMTA, serve as consultants, as ad hoc members. And also in 2020, we felt it was really important to have a direct connection with the students of the music therapy community, and we created a student liaison role, and that is filled each year by the AMTAS president. So in 2020, it was Fiona Rizzo. 2021, it was Naomi Davis. 2022, it was Jacob Moberly. And 2023, it was the fabulous, still is, Mika Castillo, who just provided through Angie their report for this year. You can learn more about the commission and each one of us on the AMTA website. On the left-hand side, we have a quick link. It takes you to our page. All of our past presentations are there. You can click on links for each commission member and read some information about us. And all of our past reports are there as well. So the AMTA Board of Directors presented the commission with these 5 charges when we were formed. Identify inconsistencies within degree programs to support clinical practice in a changing world. Identify inconsistencies among and between national roster and university affiliated internship programs. Everything's covering my screen. Recommend changes to enhance current education and clinical training practices. Support the ongoing efforts to increase state recognition of the MTBC credential, and support efforts to encourage diversity and inclusion in the profession. So what we did was extensive reach out to the music therapy community. We had a Google form and corresponding QR code, and there were 3 iterations of the Google form with space for answering our 2 main questions, which were, how do you envision music therapy evolving in the 21st century? And what do you want this commission to know? The second iteration asked for feedback on the 5 charges that we just shared in our previous slide. And the third was asking the music therapy community for focused suggestions and possible solutions on the work that was before us. We also, everything is, okay, we had direct email to all music therapists on the CBMT mailing list. We gave presentations virtually and in person at national and regional conferences. And we had meetings with many, many stakeholders, including with Ken Egan and Brian Hunter as the past presidents of NAMT and AAMT for their perspective from unification. We also met with APAC, with the Association Internship Committee, Competency Review Task Force, who you'll hear from in a moment, the DEI, AJ Committee, NASM, and many others. And now I am happy to pass it over to my co-chair, Jen Hicks.
Thank you so much, Donna. We also have done posts throughout our work on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter to continue to connect with you all in as many ways as we possibly could, and with the wider music therapy community. And we are so grateful for all of your responses. We received over 480 responses via the Google form, email, and social media. And I want to note that social media threads were uploaded to the Google form as a single response, so that an entire Twitter thread, which could include responses from dozens of folks, was actually just numbered as one response in this 480, because we wanted to make sure we maintain the thread of those discussions for use in our recommendation process. So however you chose to respond to us, those were included. And your responses did include responses from all 7 regions, from both AMTA members, which was about 67% of the responses we received, and non-members, which was about 33%. And we were grateful to hear and learn from students, professionals, educators, researchers, and business owners as a part of this work. Some other highlights from our work over the past several years included in-depth discussions as a commission around our own experiences and our biases, as well as feedback from others related to our 5 charges. And we have learned so much from and with each other as a part of those discussions, diving into the discomfort and holding space as we've been learning together from each other and from you all. We have reviewed and integrated past and present guidance documents and research relevant to our work. Donna likes to claim that we have the world's largest Google Drive folder. I would be curious if the Guinness World Record folks have a category for that, because I think we would definitely be a contender. And we're grateful for that. Many of you have shared your research with us even before it's published. In particular, folks that are related to the charges have reached out and been willing to meet with us and share what they have learned. from their work, and thank you to all of you who have done so. As Donna mentioned, we thought it was important to create that student liaison position in collaboration with AMTAS and include that liaison in the data analysis process. And so those folks that Donna highlighted actually were a part of analyzing the data and have attended meetings at different points throughout our time together. We've also done intentional reach outs, some of which Donna mentioned, to gather feedback from all of you, from music therapy stakeholders. And we have continued to do that as we have needed to throughout this process. And we have done thematic analysis, a lot of analysis of your feedback at all 3 levels. So each round that we did the Google form that Donna described, after each round, we analyzed the data. And then we did the next round and we analyzed the data, and we did the next round, we analyzed the data, and truly feel that we did reach saturation at that point in the feedback that we received. And then finally, almost finally, we are compiling your feedback into that draft recommendations report. And we recently had the opportunity to share that rough draft of our recommendations with the board of directors for their feedback, and are currently integrating their feedback as well as making other final adjustments to the recommendations. And I will just say, always going back to what we learned from you all. Each step of the way, one of the common questions that you will hear in our meetings is, where was that in the data? And going back to, where did we learn about that? How are we integrating it? Are we being true to what you all told us? It has been really important for us to feel like we are representing not only the 11 of us on the commission, but also the entire music therapy community in this work. And we truly thank you all for your continued support. We look forward to sharing these recommendations that are based on your feedback in the very near future. So stay tuned for updates. And as Donna said, you can always learn more on our webpage if you want to review our history, all of our reports, and hopefully soon we'll have a copy of these slides as well on our musictherapy.org website. As Donna said, you can go to musictherapy.org, and there's a quick link on the left side to connect you with the 21st Century Commission. And they will also be putting these slides on the website under latest news, if you know of folks who are not able to be present, or if you would like a copy of these for yourself. Thank you so much for the opportunity to share this with you all. And it is truly an honor for me to get to pass the mic over to the Competency Review Task Force over our work. It has been a privilege to get to meet with them a couple of different times to make sure that the recommendations, the feedback we've heard from you, and the work that we are doing is consistent with the work that they are doing as well. And we feel really confident in saying that it is, and that the messages that we've been getting from all of you, the feedback, the integration of what is important and what should be prioritized has been consistent. And I am really excited about their work as well. So without further ado, Competency Review Task Force, take it away.
Thank you to the board of directors for inviting us to provide you with an update on the work of the Competency Review Task Force this evening. My name is Piper Laird, and I'm joined with my co-chair, Lori Keogh. And tonight we're going to be presenting a review to bring you up to date on the work that's happened, the work that's currently happening, and the pending tasks that we have ahead of us. The CRTF is the task force of the AMTA Board of Directors. Wanted to make sure that you knew who the members of the task force are. It's Lori and myself, Della Malloy Dougherty, Tracy Richardson, Vicki Vega, Gary Verhagen, Jennifer Payton, additional contributors, Camille Geist, who was the previous chair, Deanna Hanson-Abramite, Ed Kaler, and Jane Cregan. I'm going to tell you a little bit about where we started this task. In the AMTA conference in 2017, we were formed and given the charge of review the CBMT board certification domains and compare the document to the AMTA competencies. Our second charge was to review both the professional and advanced competencies for consistency. The activities are related to the competencies, the professional competencies that we found. Spring of 2018, each task force member was assigned an area of the competencies to review. Spring and summer of 2018, each task force member recruited 2 to 3 people as a sub-work group to review their assigned section. Summer of 2018, each task force member then reported back to the group with the results of their subgroup work. The results of that initial competency review showed us that there were gaps of needed professional competence in several areas. Some advanced competencies belonged in the professional competencies. It was difficult to look for consistency between the documents because the headings were not consistent between the two documents. The task force also didn't see a continuum for competence from the professional competence to advanced competence. There was also discussion that the headings of the professional competency did not reflect current curricular needs of pre-professionals and advanced professionals. So, other professional competencies, the task force then decided, after consulting with the AMTA Board of Directors at the 2018 conference, to look at other frameworks of competence from other professions. We reviewed many related professions, processes, including social work, psychology, nursing, occupational therapy, art therapy, among others. We were drawn to professions who clearly defined their levels of practice and presented their competencies and over a continuum of skills learned. I'm going to turn it over to Lori to let you know what our current charge is and how we're making that happen.
So as a result of this initial work, our charge was we received a new charge from the Board of Directors in 2019, which was to update and revise the competencies to reflect the growth of knowledge base of the profession. So as a part of our initial review and then thinking about comparing to those other professions, we developed a proposed framework to look at areas of competency in 3 levels, as well as 4 areas of practice that align with the levels of practice in music therapy document that was adopted in 2005 and amended in 2008. That document outlines 4 areas, including musical development, integrative clinical practice, professional growth, and personal development. So our proposed framework also included a continuum that was adapted from the American Psychology Association's benchmarks for reviewing competencies. And it is in line with what we consider to be the time benchmarks for music therapy clinical training and practice. So the first benchmark would be ready for internship. The second would be ready for professional practice, which aligns with our current professional competencies. And the third would be ready for advanced practice, which aligns with our current advanced competencies. So this slide shows you just a template of what the framework looks like, with the first column being ready for internship and then competencies listed underneath that. And then the middle column being ready for professional practice with competencies listed underneath that. And the third column being readiness for advanced practice with appropriate competencies listed under that. So in addition to the competence being sequential in a vertical way in each framework, we'll also have competencies going horizontally so that they align in a developmental manner from ready for internship to professional practice to advanced practice. In order to do this, our process was first we identified where the current competencies, both the current professional competencies and the current advanced competencies, fell into this framework in these 4 areas. We also worked as a group to define levels of competency, and I'll share more with that with you in a moment, but thinking about how do we define ready for internship, ready for professional practice, and readiness for advanced practice. Then we looked at the competencies that we had put into the framework and revised wording as necessary and in line of what our original subgroups and subcommittees that we had recruited recommended. And then we looked for holes. We developed new competencies along the continuum where holes were identified. And throughout the process, we considered all domains of learning, knowledge, skills, attitudes. We also used Bloom's taxonomy to identify appropriate and clear language. And we continue to refer to the AMT levels of practice for categorizing. So this slide shows an example, or shows how we've defined some keywords. So when we think about ready for internship, we're thinking about skill and knowledge, and we're thinking about demonstration of skill and knowledge with support or supervision in a clinical setting. When we talk about ready for professional practice, we're thinking about application of skills in a client-focused manner. We're thinking about consistent demonstration of skills and knowledge and attitudes. And we're also thinking about by the time we are ready for professional practice, independence with those skills. And then ready for advanced practice, the terms we've used to categorize these is synthesis, innovation, evaluation, expertise, and research. So these are some kind of key guidelines we're using to guide our thinking as we look at each one of these categories. So this slide shows just one example of a proposed revised competency within the integrative clinical practice framework. Just like the current competencies, there are subcategories within framework. So this subcategory is treatment planning. So the ready for internship competency you can see is utilize existing information in assessment observations to develop goals and objectives for individual and or group therapy. And you can see the green indicates that this is a newly written competency, a newly formed, where we saw a hole. The ready for professional practice is worded as formulate specific and relevant goals and objectives for individual and or group therapy based on client strengths and needs. So you can see we've taken out the support of existing information provided most likely by a supervisor. And this ready for professional practice competency is based on a current professional competency. It's just been slightly reworded. The ready for advanced practice competency in this row would be design treatment programs for emerging client populations, and that is a current advanced competency that is not been reworded at all. So that's just one example of what we're working on. Some of the key elements in the work that we're doing is a change in the focus in musical development competencies. It's thinking of an addition of clinical musician competencies, our current professional competencies. Surprisingly, don't have anything about clinical musicianship. And also thinking about moving away from the old music ed model that has been traditionally influenced by NASM, but NASM has indicated they are flexible in how we meet these music competencies, and broadening the focus beyond a white Western Eurocentric base of the music. Also, we're looking at embedding cultural humility in DEIJ throughout the competencies as opposed to a particular checkoff for this, because we all know that that's not a checkoff. And also looking at alignment but not overlap with other AMTA documents. We've started to recognize that we really do have quite a bit of redundancy in this area. And then intentional reflection on what are the minimal and essential competencies needed for a practicing music therapist who's prepared to work in any area of practice. That's something we've had a lot of discussion about. And I'm going to turn back to Piper.
So going on to our next steps, we are working on completing each of the framework areas and the drafts of those. So that's our work in progress. Well, we've been working very, very diligently on that area and are closing in on completing some of those drafts. Collaborating with other groups, particularly the commission, it's been wonderful to have an opportunity to meet with them, to review information and data that's been collected from the membership and relate to competency specifically. We know that work is going to continue as we hear more about what the commission is recommending. And so we'll continue with that work as well. Defining how competency will be evaluated at each of the levels and who's going to be responsible for making sure that that competency has been met. Our future work, certainly again, aligning with the commission's recommendations, submitting a draft to the AMTA Board of Directors, and then working with the Board of Directors to develop a plan for gathering feedback from our stakeholders. So thank you for allowing us to provide this update on our work of the Competency Review Task Force, and I'll turn it back over. Thank you.
Thank you both to our commission representatives, Donna and Jen, and to the CRTF representatives, Piper and Lori. We really appreciate the information and the updates, and we're excited to see what comes next and see the soon to be released information from both groups. Next, we're going to go to Laura Beer with some information from the journals, including some bylaws changes that you will be learning a little bit more about tonight, and then will come into play in the upcoming business meeting. So, Laura?
Thank you, Lori. And I just want to share a few points of what we've been working on in the journals. And it's been, first of all, I'm Laura Beer. I'm lead editor for Music Therapy Perspectives. And the co-editors of the JMT, the Journal of Music Therapy, Dr. Blythe Lagasse, Dr. Kimberly Senamore, and I have proposed some changes to the AMTA bylaws with regards to journal operations and some language changes. And these have really come about because we've had some changes in the editorial leadership with Kimberly and Blythe taking on co-editorship responsibility. MTP has now an assistant editor as well, and these changes weren't reflected in the bylaws. These changes have been really positive as well. So one of the things we'd like to look at is staggering of the terms, because that way the workload of learning the position for someone coming into an editor, co-editor position is a tremendous amount of work. And it's also a tremendous amount of work for search committees to undertake these searches to identify people that could serve in this capacity. So we're trying to stagger the terms so there's a bit of an overlap. And so what we're looking at then is with these searches, we're looking for the board of directors to endorse these appointments of the assistant and associate editors. We undergo a really thorough vetting process for candidates who come through the pipeline, who are interested in serving. And we put forward our recommendation to the board of directors with a lot of confidence in people's abilities. And so we do want to look to the board for their endorsement, and also for the endorsement of the editorial board members. So a thorough recruitment process again, and for this endorsement to come about. So we're also looking at a couple of changes in language. Right now in the bylaws, we're referred to as having editorial committees, and the word committee is a very outdated word, and saying editorial board really gives us that idea that we have a pool of reviewers that we draw upon. And we also want to clarify the title of editor to include lead editor or co-editors, with the addition of assistant editors and associate. When we have associate managing editors, there's just a lot of confusion over what editor actually meant there. So that's in brief the bylaw changes that we're proposing. And I would just like to share a couple of updates as well, and just piece of news that if you're not aware, this is the 60th anniversary for the Journal of Music Therapy. And Blythe and Kimberly have been doing a fantastic job of bringing forward this historical perspective in the editorials for this year. And I know they have one more really wonderful editorial coming from Sherry Robb. And the other piece of news to share is that the journals are moving online starting in 2024. And we'll be providing some guidance through our communications manager to help you figure out how to be alerted when journal issues are being released. So that is all I have, and I thank you very much.
Thank you, Laura. Just to make sure that everyone knows, we're going to be sending out additional information on these bylaws changes in preparation for the upcoming business meeting, which is November 8th. So please mark that on your timeline and watch for additional information about how to connect, the times, and et cetera. But the meeting itself will be November 8th, and we will have information to share on these bylaws changes. I did want to make one more note about the moving online. There's a number, just to kind of expand on that a little bit, there are a number of reasons that we are doing so. It's more environmentally friendly, it's more economical. And we also discovered during COVID that there were a number of challenges happening in the publishing industry, including things like not having enough paper to print editions. And so we ran into some timeline packages because of things like not having enough paper. It had to do with supply chain issues and things. So going online will allow us to be more environmentally friendly, be more economical for the association, and avoid those challenges with things like shortages in paper and other issues moving forward. So I think that is everyone for this evening. We're so grateful for all of you who have shared information, and we're so grateful for all of you that are also here listening. We do have one just last final piece of information that Angie is going to share real quickly in relation to the bylaws changes. And then we will give you information on how to connect in to the Q&A after this. So Angie?
Thank you, Lori. I just want to add that we have one other very minor bylaws proposal change that would also come on November 8th. And that is in Article 15, credentials. We're proposing to eliminate sections 3 and 4. Because here I could share a screen so you could just look at it very briefly. It's to address the, it's about the former AAMT and former NAMT professional categories and the National Music Therapy Registry Incorporated, since they no longer exist as of January 1st, 2020. So you can take a peek at that, looking at our bylaws, go on our website, and then we will also send this information out to all members in addition to the bylaws language that the journals are proposing. We wanted to see before November 8th. Thank you, Lori.
You're welcome. So before we go to the QR code, Andrea is going to help us connect in if you're planning on attending the Q&A. I just want to remind everyone that we have been trying a number of new things this year, like the combination of work sessions and more public meetings for both the assembly and the board. We've also been trying a strategy of not sending as many emails, saving those for larger updates, but putting more smaller updates under latest news and on social media. So encourage you to stay plugged into our latest news on the website, which is on the right side of the home page. And if you click on that, you can scroll back to previous latest news releases. And then also in social media. And as we've shared before in some other media events, AMTA is now on Threads in addition to the pre-existing social media that we already use like Facebook. So once again, thank you, everyone. And Andrea, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thanks. And thanks, everyone, for joining us. We do invite you to attend our follow-up conversation. We did schedule that for 8:15 Eastern, though I note that we are coming up on 8:10 Eastern, so we may take just a little bit of a little longer break, just so that those of us who've been on here for a little while can take care of our biological needs before we re-engage. So if you sign on right at 8:15 Eastern and you're in the waiting room for just a little while longer, just know that we're coming. We may just need a few extra moments to get ourselves situated before we start that. You can access that follow-up conversation by scanning that QR code that's on the screen there, or by typing in the link https://bit.ly/AMTA, all caps, October, all lowercase, 2023. Or you can also find that link in the communication that went out around this live stream and the meeting earlier last week and this week. So we hope to see some of you there. If you are accessing this recording later on, you won't be able to catch that follow-up conversation. We're not going to be recording that, but we hope to see you at another one in the future. Thank you and good night.